Hello internet people and welcome back to the Film Loft. I'll be honest with you, I forgot I actually had to record this video today on my one day off that I have, so you're probably seeing me at my worst that I've been for a long time. Although in all reality, I kind of wish that this was the worst that I looked, but... So I know that it's been a while since my last film review on YouTube, and I do apologize. I haven't watched a whole lot in the way of brand new films that have been worthy of putting out a video review for, and I've been swamped with a lot of work outside of these videos. However, if there was one thing that was gonna pull me back to doing a video review such as this, it's definitely a Marvel Studios movie. So, with that in mind, let's get into it. Marvel Studios' Black Widow is the standalone movie that pretty much every Marvel fan has been waiting / expecting to see since about 2014. I think I speak for a lot of fans when I say I'm pretty surprised that this didn't come a lot earlier in the Marvel timeline, but hey, we have it now. But the question is, has it been worth the wait? This is a little bit of a double-edged sword. Right from the off, I'm gonna say I'm kind of torn on my opinion of this film. While yes, I am one of the people that has waited quite a long time to see a standalone Black Widow film, get more about her story, more about her character, more about her history, there is also the other side of the equation where for the longest time leading up to this film, and actually during the watching of this film, I kind of felt like there might be a sense that there's not going to be a whole lot in this film that's presented as being original. While yes, it is great that we see more of Natasha Romanoff, Black Widow, and everything that she's capable of doing. Finally, she is a character that deserves to have screen time dedicated to her. The whole of the Black Widow film, for the most part, did feel like they were cherry-picking bits and pieces that they knew had worked in previous Marvel Cinematic Universe films, put them together into this film to create something that is basically kind of Marvel by numbers. So while the plot and the story itself doesn't represent a whole lot that is breaking a mold, there are elements within that I did find pretty original and enjoyed watching. Number one, the fight scenes. I do have to say that something that has been lacking a little bit in Marvel Cinematic Universe films, aside from being on a more grander scale, is the close-up fight choreography. Now, the last time I saw something as far as fight choreography that really impressed me in a Marvel film was Captain America Winter Soldier, which, ironically, probably showcased Black Widow in a better light than the Black Widow movie did. But Black Widow, as a standalone movie, had some amazing fight choreography in it. There were some really detailed action scenes. Even the stunts were pulled off in a really impressive way, and I thought that really rang true of what I would expect to see in a Black Widow movie. Number two was Florence Pugh as her sister Yelena. Well, sister Yelena. There's a lot of backstory that gets thrown at you in the first kind of 15 minutes of the film, and that's really before even most of the film technically begins. Natasha as a character, for the most part through MCU movies, has been painted as someone without a history, without a family. She's left pretty much nothing behind, and actually this is showcasing that she has left some things behind, and she's now on the path to gaining that back. Florence Pugh did a great job in this movie of playing the character that she plays, and I am very much looking forward to seeing more of what she's going to bring to the MCU next, as showcased in the post-credits scene. I'm probably not going to go too much into the way of spoilers, but at the same time, there's also not a whole lot to spoil in Black Widow, so no separate video on that for me this time. And I also love David Harbour as Red Guardian, the Russian super soldier, because he as a character not only was really cool to see, A, because he's David Harbour, and I love him, and B, because he's a Russian version of Captain America. I thought that this was a really interesting concept to see, that other countries have tried to create their own version of an American hero. And David Harbour plays this really, really well. And also, as far as a character of Red Guardian goes, it does pull up a lot of questions. Now, the first question is he a super soldier in the same sense that Captain America is a super soldier? And the answer is probably not, because as is already established in Marvel canon, Steve Rogers as a super soldier is really the only true example of what the original super soldier serum was capable of doing, and everything else after that hasn't quite got it quite right. And it's said that Steve Rogers as a super soldier had a super fast metabolism, and as we can clearly see, Alexei as the Red Guardian, after ages of being in a prison in the middle of nowhere, has kind of gotten a little bit of a gut on him. He's a little bit more chunky than he used to be, which is weird considering that you're in a prison, and if anything, you're probably not going to be eating that much or have a chance to be that lethargic. But hey, that's theories for another time. And the other reason that he's interesting as a character is because he keeps going on about this story of when he fought Captain America in the 80s, and he's certain that it's true, because he then asks Natasha later on whether Captain America has spoken about him. Now, this brings up a theory of whether it's actually Captain America that he fought. Is he making this story up? Probably not, because he asked Natasha if Steve Rogers, aka Captain America, or whatever Captain America it was, still spoke of him. And obviously she's likely to say no, because the Steve Rogers that she knew was still frozen in ice at the time that he claims to have fought him. Now, is this another version of Steve Rogers? Is this a multiverse version of Steve Rogers that's hopped over from a different timeline? Is this original Steve Rogers time traveling, so of course he wouldn't have fought him in the 80s? First time he was through the 80s, but living through that time again after traveling back in time, maybe he did fight him. Very interesting questions revolving this character, which is why I personally hope to see more of Red Guardian in the future as well. Now, there were a couple of points I really didn't like about Black Widow that kind of just didn't sit right with me, other than the fact that this did feel a little bit in points like Marvel by numbers. They took some points in the film to have the potential of having some really hard-hitting emotional moments and connections between two characters. But then they do the Marvel thing of breaking that up with humor, or a character taking something that would have otherwise been pretty serious and delivering it in a sarcastic, humorous way. That kind of said, well, they're not going down the serious route. They've looked over the script and gone, oh no, we can't have it be too serious at this point. We have to break it up with humor. And actually, I would have liked to have seen those serious points be serious to drive the point that they were making home. Most of the plot of Black Widow is an allegory for an abusive relationship, and the fact that Natasha is one of the only women to have made it out of that abusive relationship and become a free person with free will and her own choices. And then what happens to other people after in that abusive relationship, because she was the one person that made it out. Now, with that in mind, if they then go on while talking about, in the context of this abusive relationship that they've painted out, to see it as a humorous thing, that belittles the point that they are trying to drive home. Secondly, Ray Winston as the villain of this piece, I didn't feel like he was utilized to his full extent, but at the same time I also felt that Ray Winston doing Russian by way of something Irish and Cockney didn't also feel like he should have had too much of that going on. And while we are speaking of things that didn't get fully utilized, Strap in, people, because I have opinions. We finally see Taskmaster in the MCU, and I have to say that while I loved seeing what this character is capable of doing, and the action that followed this character around, and the challenge that Taskmaster presents, I have to say, I don't feel like we have actually seen Taskmaster yet. Now, in the same way that you would watch Iron Man 3 and go, I don't feel like we've really seen the Mandarin in the MCU yet, because that was a whole kind of fake out. And Guy Pearce at the end claiming that he is the Mandarin. No, he's not. I feel like that has yet to be seen in the MCU, and I feel like that's gonna be something that Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings is gonna cover. I feel that same way about Taskmaster. There is a very good chance that this might just be Taskmaster version 1.0, and we're going to see a whole lot more of Taskmaster in the sense of it being actually what you would picture Taskmaster to be. Now again, I would like to reiterate that I do not feel this way because, the reveal behind who Taskmaster really is isn't what you would picture Taskmaster to be. Yes, Taskmaster does turn out to be a woman in this movie. I have no problem with that. If anything, I think that actually makes a lot of sense contextually. It's the sense that as far as the character goes, the whole point of Taskmaster is that they have an eidetic learning memory for memorizing fight styles, and in this, they basically made kind of a killer drone robot. This is essentially Marvel Studios' Terminator. And the way that they were breathing under the mask the whole time kind of felt like they were a cross between Terminator and Michael Myers. Now that's a cool thing to have in an enemy, in a main villain of a piece. You want to see heroes fighting someone that is like a Terminator or Michael Myers, that is just going to relentlessly, remorselessly keep coming after them. That's a cool concept. However, as a concept, that doesn't feel like Taskmaster. So as far as that goes, I feel like we have yet to see the best version of Taskmaster that we possibly can. Is it going to be the same version of Taskmaster we saw in this film? Probably not, because the way that this ended kind of cut that off, and if anything, I'd like to see them return. So there is very much the double-edged sword of enjoying this film, but also having my fair share of problems with this film. And in that sense, it's a really tough one to call as far as a rating goes. Purely on the sense that I finally got to enjoy a Black Widow movie, and the action in it was pretty cool. It was kind of what I expected to see from a Marvel movie, and it's got me back into the spirit of seeing Marvel films, and hopefully I'll get to go back to the cinema and see more of them in the near future, because this has ramped me up for the Marvel movies coming out for the rest of the year. I am going to give Black Widow 3.5 stars. It was going to be 4, but then I kind of felt like the plot of the film was a little bit kind of cookie cutter as far as Marvel movies went, but it did get the amount that it did purely on the basis that I think there's a lot more that this film has open to explore in future Marvel movies, and it's got me excited for the possibilities of those. So, Black Widow, have you seen it? What did you think about it? What was your favorite moment of the film? What character do you want to see more of that was involved in this film? And what do you think the future of the MCU is going to shape up to look like after this point? All comments are welcome in the comments section below. Let's talk nerdy. Don't forget that we are still releasing our podcast, Back to the Reviewture. It's available on all podcast platforms. Check it out, give it a listen. If you enjoy it, subscribe, rate, review. If you don't enjoy it, that's okay. Tell all of the people that you don't like, subject them to it. As always, if you've enjoyed what you've seen here and you would like to see some more, you can click right here to see some more funky, fresh videos from yours truly. And until that point, do also let me know if in that arm wrestling scene in the Russian gulag, you also nearly puked when you saw the guy's wrist get broken. Don't lie! That was horrible. That was absolutely horrible.